What's up, guys? Welcome to another Destiny gameplay video. Today I'm going to be reviewing this new legendary raid hand cannon from Crota's End, Word of Crota, only obtained from killing Crota himself. I use the fast draw sights on it. It's got Zen Moment. It has the speed reload, hammer forged, and explosive rounds. I tend to gravitate towards hammer forged, but sometimes I'll use explosive rounds in PvE situations. Also has Phantom Gift, which is kind of bogus, doesn't really work that well. With a mag size of 12, getting an extra 1 if you land precision shots really isn't that big a deal. The biggest thing about this weapon is its peculiar recoil pattern, and this is one of the reasons that people tend to not like it. It's because they just don't land all their shots, so they think it's ineffective. It has a pretty strong up to the right pull, but if you wait just a fraction of a second for those sights to reset, your cluster will be perfectly nice and tight. So a lot of people just pull the trigger as fast as they can, and the weapon can fire faster than it can reset the sights. So if you just have a little bit of patience, it'll be a really effective weapon, especially in PvP. Now if you use explosive rounds, it doesn't pull to the right as much, it's mainly just straight north. So keep that in mind depending on how you have the weapons spec'd. But like I said, I like hammer forged. I'm not an explosive rounds kind of guy. So you're going to want to anticipate that north-right pull and compensate for it. You have two choices. You can either let the sights reset or learn to control that recoil. Here's the loadout I used with it. I don't use my 32 gear in PvP. I use gear that gives me bonuses for hand cannons, for extra ammo for heavy and special. So this is the loadout that I use. I don't need to be the guy planting the flag at the beginning of the match. So here's the weapon in action. It is actually a phenomenal weapon in PvP once you learn to control the recoil. That being said, it's not my favorite hand cannon. The Phantom Gift perk is kind of bogus. If it was a Iron Banner gun, I'd be re-rolling it, because that perk just doesn't really come in handy that much. You can almost not even realize that it's there. So eventually I got pretty comfortable with controlling the recoil, but initially I started out just trying to wait a fraction of a second and let those sights reset. There's this a giant forums war right now going on about whether the Fatebringer is better or if the Word of Crota is better. Here's a lagger. Kind of like a what? And he's red bar. Anyways, there is a Fatebringer Word of Crota war going on the forums. And most people are saying Fatebringer is a better gun. To me, my opinion is because the Fatebringer has less of a strange recoil pattern. It's easier to control, so people like it more. But I will say that once you get the hang of using this weapon, I personally use this over my Fatebringer in PvP. I just like it better. Once you get the recoil pattern under control, once you learn how to you end up making these little like circles with the gun as it pulls up to the right, and then you kind of rotate the joystick to bring it back down to the left. This guy dropped heavy, so I just sprinted over and grabbed it real quick. So anyways, you make these little circles, and once you learn to pull the gun back down to reset the sights manually, then you can pull the trigger as fast as the gun can fire and be effective. But otherwise, most people, they sight in with it and then they just keep pulling the trigger, and most of their shots are going to miss. They might land their first one, but that's going to be about it. So look at how accurate that is at range. I did that jumping that jumping shot there, and even in the air managed to land a headshot for that precision 77 damage. So it's not a hawk moon. It's not going to kill a guy in 2 shots if you get headshots, but it does hit like a truck. It's a powerful hand cannon, and the 12 rounds in the mag is certainly nice to have. I certainly experienced a lot of success using it in the Crucible, so hopefully I can show you that here. The loadout I used with it, I paired it with this sniper rifle, the Longbow Synthesis, which I really, really like. If you don't have it, by the way, it's very comparable to the LDR. It doesn't have the armor penetrating rounds, but you might not, you don't really need those. Sure, sometimes they're interesting to use for the penetration through walls and stuff, but for the most part, it's not really that different. Very, very similar. Great weapon to use. So Now, in terms of the other raid weapons, the new raid primaries, I personally think that my favorite so far, and this may surprise people, is by far the pulse rifle. As good as the Word of Crota is, and I do think that it's pretty good in PvE with the explosive rounds and good for crowd control, and I do use it in the Crota fight now on the hard mode, now that I have this gun maxed out. But I do like the pulse rifle better in PvP. I think that the Oversoul Edict is a really, really powerful weapon for PvP, and I've got a lot of footage I can show you for that. Should have a review of that going up soon. But I had so many 40-plus kill games using the Oversoul Edict. The fire rate is just ridiculous. The stability once you get the fitted stock makes it just a powerhouse pulse rifle. And yeah, it's a high rate of fire, low impact, but it does kick butt. So anyways, back to the Word of Crota. You can see I went a 4.75 KD on that match. It's just a really solid gun to use, but it does take a skilled hand in order to be good with it. And I think that's why it's not as popular, because the Fatebringer is a great weapon, but it's a lot more friendly to the user. You can be a novice with hand cannons and still really like the Fatebringer and still be able to control it pretty well. But even people who use hand cannons pretty consistently might find themselves struggling with the Word of Crota. And it's all because of that strange recoil pattern and the fact that the sights can't reset before it's ready to fire off another shot. So I'll show you this here. This is some slow motion footage here, and you can see right here the recoil in slow motion. So he goes up to the right, and then I'm manually pulling it back down to the left and making these sort of small circles with the gun. And that's kind of what you have to do with this weapon.
Zone C neutralized.
So generally speaking, I think that if you're new to hand cannons and you just unlock this one and you want to see how good it is, I wouldn't recommend starting with this one. It's not really a good hand cannon to start with. And again, that slow motion there, you can see the recoil and manually pulling it. And then getting that headshot as the door closes there. And then as the buzzer expires, getting another one. But anyways, this isn't a good gun to start with if you're new to hand cannons. I always recommend people, if you have the Thorn, that's the best hand cannon to start with because it's super user-friendly and you can get an idea for how it works. So eventually I just kind of gelled out with this weapon in my loadout here, kind of using everything in my arsenal. I did feel a little bit dirty. I almost never use the Truth in PvP, but when I was collecting this footage, I was giving it another shot. I don't even have the gun maxed out, but it just feels so dirty sometimes you don't even have to aim. But anyways, I got to a point where I pretty well zenned out with the gun and had a lot of success with it. And then you'll see here, I had this really nice Nova Bomb snipe. I love doing this, sniping with the Nova Bomb across the map. Bam, get the sniper off that water tower. This particular match, I was just playing angry because half the team, these three guys, were partied up together, and the three guys were all using Vex Mythoclast as their primary and a shotgun as their secondary. And I was just pretty angry, so I kind of went ham. Personally, I refuse to use my Mythoclast in PvP anymore. And then check this slow-mo, jump past that Warlock, get the space magic, and then come down and get him for the breaker. I'm a glutton for space magic medals. I will put myself in harm's way just for the chance of getting one. I don't know why, I just love doing it. But you'll see this gun is really, really effective. Once you learn to control that recoil, you can pull the trigger as fast as you want to and still land your shots. Otherwise, I was still having super positive games when I was just waiting for those sights to reset. So in PvE, you'll see 1100 damage on that the Legionary there for precision damage. And later in this clip I'll switch to the explosive rounds, and you do end up doing considerably less precision damage with explosive rounds, but the additional damage that you get with the explosive rounds does make up for it and then some. So in PvE generally I'll use the explosive rounds, but really only in the closer quarters areas. In places like this I'll stick with Hammer Forged. And this is actually kind of a strange, I've never had the Goliath tank do this before, but while I was collecting this footage, we managed to get him stuck like down in the back left corner, and we had to like move our sparrows around him because he blocked the entire canyon where we killed him. But he sees me and he kind of boosts over here eventually and gets stuck down there. So like I said earlier, I do now use this as my primary for the Crota fight on hard. I like being able to do the additional damage to Hive Majors, and even if you're not getting the Phantom Gift perk, I don't really care because it's not really that big of a deal. So you see 733 damage for the precision instead of 1100, but the additional damage you do with the explosive rounds does make up for it, and then some, so you end up doing a little bit more damage, over 500 damage with the explosive rounds. Plus the AoE sort of effect of the explosive rounds is nice to have for crowd control. Maybe not so much on this strike, but this is also a really good weapon now to use for the Abyss Maze with the lanterns. Well, I hope this was helpful, guys. Feel free to like and subscribe. Leave me a comment. Let me know what you think of the weapon. That's really helpful. Thanks, guys.